Local leaders, top stories, the news that matters most to you. The News Drive at 5 with host Patrick Reynolds starts now.
Welcome to the News Drive at 5 for this Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Thank you for joining us on News Talk, WSIC, out of Statesville and Cornelius. I am your host, Patrick Reynolds. You just heard Dollars and Cents with Joshua Doby every Thursday here on WSIC at 4 p.m. Brought to you by North Main Financial, a great part of the community, what North Main Financial and Joshua Doby does. Always involved, always giving, and great to have them as part of the WSIC News Talk family. This is one of our News Drive at 5 conversation series shows, brand new to the network here, and my in-studio guest. We're going to chat with him today. 97th North Carolina House District Representative Jason Saine is in studio with us. How are you, Jason?
Patrick, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. You know, we followed Josh, and I feel like I should lower my voice about 2 octaves. And he's always, the first time I ever met him, like, man, that's a great voice.
Isn't it?
He's ready for radio.
One of the number one questions I get on radio is, hey, is that Joshua Doby's real voice?
That's his real voice.
Yes, it is. Well, when you meet him and talk to him, he said, dude, we need you in a choir. We need you on air. We got to do something with you.
Made for radio.
Yeah.
Like my face, right? Made for radio.
Yeah, Joshua Doby, very good part of the community. Past chair of the Lake Norman Chamber. He was on the board of directors for Kane Center for the Arts. He's given a lot, I know personally, to Old Town Cornelius with the Tobawalks and Second Friday Street Festivals, North Main Financial. Big part of the Lake Norman community. Great to have him with us at WSIC.
He's a great guy. Good asset and someone that everyone should listen to.
Absolutely. I tell people that he can't give you direct advice over the air with the radio show. That's not legal to do.
Right.
However, if you want to take like a little mini class on financial situation, listen to his show every week. It's an hour, and you can just tune into the radio, and it's somewhat of a little bit of a podcast, and you'll get a pretty good lesson on how to manage finances. But as he says, he stresses, every situation's different. Call him
That's right.
for specifics, but it's like a little class.
Well, he's got limitations too. What he can do in radio. I tell people I practice law just without a license, right? As a legislator. So, but he's just a super guy and well thought of. The first time I met him, and it's probably been 10 years ago or more. Just a good person to know.
I was working full-time in sales here at WSIC when he came on board. I helped orchestrate and initiate that getting the show on the air.
That's
the
awesome.
North Main Financial Show. So I'm not the key to it by any means, but I am happy to say, I had a little piece of that. I played a role in helping get him on the air, facilitate that. So it's cool. Good to have him with us. Good to have you with us today. I think North Main Financial is doing pretty well in the advertising market right now for Airtime WSIC. I encourage everybody, give North Main Financial a call in Cornelius for your financial needs. But the man in studio today, Jason Saine, with us. House District Representative, I see election signs everywhere. Election cycle, exciting time, especially if you're a talk show host on a news talk station like
Absolutely.
I am. Now, is your election cycle involved in that for 2024, or is that not you?
I'm up every 2 years.
Yeah.
I just had the good fortune this time and last time of not drawing an opponent in the primary or the general election. So I've kind of got a free pass. I tell everyone that, we might have worked out a speaker deal, but I might change my mind. I'm the first elected Republican to the 2025 General Assembly. Just kidding about that, but I am that. So it's been great, and particularly since I'm the conference leader, my role, I'm the appropriations chairman, but I'm also the conference leader. So I'm in charge of helping my colleagues get reelected. So it's an exciting time for me, and I'm glad I kind of got a little bit of a free pass so I can concentrate on that.
There was an issue that came up, conversation recently with another politician about the 2-year term versus the 4-year term. And I believe it had to do with Iredell County commissioners.
Right.
Would that 2-year, 4-year term discussion go your direction? Is that on the docket at all?
It would have to come to us. It would have to be sponsored as a local bill. I mean, we let municipalities and counties, they have to come to the state to be able to do something like that. It had to be sponsored by a local legislator. I know my opinion on running every 2 years. It's incredibly expensive, and you're always running for re-election. That being said, I don't know that we'd ever change it as far as the state house or state senate, but we might change it for a local election. That's been done, and it's quite common.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with your background here. I've talked to a few politicians. We're making our way through all the elected officials as we can. It's been quite a series of interesting conversations, and we find people that have moved here more recent years, people that are natives as well that are serving offices. Where do you fall into that gap?
So I'm a native of Lincoln County. So
okay.
Grew up there, went to NC State for 2 years, and transferred to UNC Charlotte, finished there. So I'm a North Carolina guy, but born and bred in Lincoln County. Or actually, I tell people I was born up north. I was born in Hickory.
Up north, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
there's
some Florida transplants that say, "Hey, I moved north to come here."
Well, that's right.
That's fine with them. So your day job. What do you do for a day job? First of all, that's shocking that people realize, whoa, that's not the representative issue is not a full-time position.
I always tell people that being a representative is my side hustle, right?
Okay.
You get paid $14,000 a year. Actually, it's like $13,900 something, some change, right? If you're serving, you're paying to do it. You're really a volunteer, and that's okay. We know what that is. I'm not going to go on radio and beg for more pay. That's not at all what I want to do. But my real job is I work in advertising and tech, basically media. I help companies get their data into server farms, also protecting their data, disaster recovery. I kind of act as a middleman with our company. Then that led into doing more with media and advertising, helping companies get to the right place to advertise. So if you're a company, you know what you're doing as far as what it is you want to accomplish, what you want to sell, what you want to create, but where do you get to next? And then after that step, as far as, okay, well, we want to advertise, then how do you get there? Is it billboards? Is it radio? So I act as a consultant on that as well.
So you could do electronic, you could do print, television, radio, basically any format.
Do it all. I used to own a newspaper. So for 7 years, owned a newspaper in Lincolnton. So ran that, a little community newspaper. It was weekly. So have a lot of background in that.
Where do you think, as we've seen society change, especially I want to say in the last 20 or so years, we've bled away from print so much and gone more to electronic. Give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or just rolling with evolution?
I think it's a natural progression of things. Look, I'm an adopter of technology, clearly. Have been in the print business, but I love the digital. And, it's easy. I can get it, almost 24/7. Maybe that's a downside too. But nevertheless, it changed the market for sure.
I heard a statement a while back, I believe it was from this radio station, someone here. They claimed, gosh, half of my advertising dollars are wasted, but I just wish I knew which half.
Right.
Have you ever heard that expression? And I can't even tell people what that.
Well, the best part is now, because you can go digital, you can measure. We know clicks. We know who sees it. We know the target demographic. You can be so focused on what you want to do. You can actually, better spend those dollars.
So get it, I guess, focused to wherever, as opposed to, how do we want to call this, buckshot versus a sniper?
That's right. Knowing your market and getting your product to them.
Dive into them. And how did you get into that kind of field? Was that where your education was, your degree?
And now my degree's in political science, but it's all kind of led to everything, right? So if you're running for office, you're advertising. That's how I got there.
Okay. We can dive more into that after the break coming up. Thank you so much for joining us with the News Drive at 5 Conversation Series, brand new series here on WSIC News Talk. I am Patrick Reynolds in studio talking with Jason Saine, 97th North Carolina House District Representative. We'll have more with Jason and Patrick and Joe behind the board right after this. Welcome back to the News Drive at 5 Conversation Series. Patrick Reynolds taking you home this afternoon. Thank you so much to our audience here at WSIC News Talk for joining us and coming along for the ride. Jason Saine in studio with us here at our WSIC Statesville studios. You are obviously a elected public official, but you go way back in campaign experience, not just of your own, but others as well. Where did you get your start with your first campaign?
Well, I always tell people that I started with the 1980 election. I was 7 years old. My parents were Southern Democrats. I was enamored with Ronald Reagan, and I wanted to make sure that they were going to vote for Ronald Reagan. because I knew they were Democrats, and I didn't trust them. No, I'm kidding. They're my parents, but I just so much wanted Reagan to win that I went into the voting booth with them. Went first with Mom, and then once Dad got off work, I went in with him and watched them mark their ballot. Right, and I felt like I had a little piece of that election, and I just always enjoyed following current events. I mean, I was that nerdy kid that would ask for Time magazine subscriptions and keep up. This is way before the internet, and would keep up. And then in college, came time to pick what it was that I wanted to do as far as a major. For whatever reason, I said, I'm going to study political science. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, is what I really thought. And then the more and more I got into it, the more I learned about policy and really the construct of government. I really enjoyed it and had an acumen for it. Didn't know how I would make money doing that, but almost immediately after graduating, went to work on a gubernatorial campaign. I was actually in grad school thinking I would be maybe a city manager, county manager. So I was in the MPA program at Charlotte. And my friend, who's now a congressman, Richard Hudson, was working for Richard Vinroot, mayor of Charlotte at the time. He was running for governor, and they needed a driver and a staff assistant that would go everywhere with him. I lived in Charlotte because I'm still at the university. I could pick him up in the mornings, travel all over the state, and then come back to Charlotte most nights. And that was an incredible experience. And, younger people listening may not realize what a Rolodex is, but I always say that, that's where I built my Rolodex, because I was in every meeting with Richard Vinroot. And I was just a kid that drove in there, and the guy to tell him, hey, it's time to go. But I was, shuffling information, feeding it back to the people in the campaign office, listening, learning, and then having those conversations. I had some of the best conversations ever. I mean, great to have him as a mentor, just a super guy, Moorhead scholar, played ball for Dean Smith, Vietnam vet. Just those conversations on the road, and it's more and more I got interested in public service. Never thought I'd be in the state house. I got appointed in 2011. Luckily, $14,000 was more than nothing. I was unemployed at the time because downturn in the economy, and our legislator had resigned because he had moved out of the district. And my folks came to me and said, hey, you should consider doing this. That's how I got there. But all that in between, the working on campaigns, really loved that. I was a field guy. So Robin Hayes won that primary. So his opponent, who I'd met on the campaign trail for being with Richard, Robin said, hey, everybody in the Vinroot camp, would you come join my campaign and help us work through those wounds that happened during a primary? And then I was the field guy. So I had basically I-77 West. So I got to travel all across western North Carolina, met so many people. I'd traveled all over the state with Richard, and just stayed in contact with those folks. Then, doing different things in private sector. I worked at the bank. I worked at First Union at the time, and then started my own company, owned a newspaper, did have a tech company. So have done a lot of things that prepared me for, not knowing it, but prepared me to serve in public office.
In 1980, can you give up the vote results? Did your parents vote for Carter or?
Oh, they
Reagan?
both voted for Reagan.
They did. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure did. Yeah. No, they were. At the time, you look at the district I had, which is very Republican now, but Lincoln County was predominantly Democrat. And my dad told me, he said, "Look, we were registered Democrats because we would vote in those primaries, so we at least have a say so." The Republicans didn't have anybody to offer at that time.
Strange now, as I've seen this, I guess, turn, because largely red and Republican in this area right now, according to demographics.
Yeah, well, it really starting with Reagan, and Jesse Helms won in '72 statewide, helped build a network across the state. Republican Party started getting their own at that point, and getting to a nucleus. One of my other mentors is former House Speaker Harold Brubaker. He served in the state house, I think, when there were like 6 Republicans. We're now a super majority. So to come from, and the fact that he became Speaker in 1994 is amazing. That's a very short time frame when that wave kind of came through the South. So
what was the first time you stepped into public service as an elected official to run your own campaign? When was that?
So 2011, September, got sworn in on September 10th, 2011. We had about a month-long process of the local executive committee of the Republican Party deciding who they were going to pick. I get picked. then the governor, as long as you have a clean record and there's no reason the governor shouldn't appoint you, the party the person who left gets to pick, and then the governor says okay and signs it. And then my very first vote was the following Monday. So that sworn in on a Saturday, and then on the 12th go into my first vote, which was the what was essentially the marriage bill, voting on gay marriage. So started with a easy topic, and it's been game on ever since.
With your experience with the Charlotte mayor, or during the primaries all those years ago, that was your first experience. Did you also see the negative aspect of politics? I ask this question because with the political office and leaders that I've interviewed, they see the good and the bad, and they talk about the good and the bad. You really got to open yourself up to be vulnerable and take some negative comments.
You gotta have thick skin. It's only getting worse. Social media. I'm very glad that Elon Musk has at least taken a little bit of control over Twitter. Giving some accountability. There's people are very brave behind a keyboard when they don't have to admit who they are, right? They'll say all kind of things. They'll lie about you. Look, apparently I got elected having murdered someone one time. Turns out that's not true, but I had a lady tell my poll worker that one time. And I was like, are you kidding me? That is the most bizarre thing I think I've ever heard in my life. One, I had to get appointed by a Democratic governor, technically, right? Who had to check into my background. Like, no, of course, that's ridiculous. But, things are said about you. Things are misinterpreted. People, they create your own narrative. And it's fine for me because I choose to do it. But politicians also have families, right? And my wife, you want to get the hair on the back of her neck up, talk about her husband. I've got a son who's 15. We've got a son who's 15, and they read that stuff. They see that stuff too, right? I try not to do anything that would embarrass them. Obviously, I'm a known quantity now, so it's not as people aren't as quick to believe what's out there. But when you're first getting into it, if you got some people that just want to lie, they'll do it. And social media, unfortunately, has been a real negative aspect. It's a great way to communicate, but it's also a way that those who might be opposed to you or just don't like your ideas want to come after you.
So I'm trying to put myself in your shoes at this time where you're seeing the negative aspects as well as social media starting to rear its ugly head several years ago. But there's positive aspects you must see as you were growing up as well, of serving the people, of helping the community. What's the tipping point there? Because a lot of people look at these negative aspects and go, I would never get into politics. And some people have that tug to help their neighbors and community. What did it for you to say, I'm going into politics?
Well, the community service aspect of it. I had served as a volunteer firefighter at our local fire station, East Lincoln Fire Department. Kind of stumbled into that because the newspaper was covering some of the things that they were doing, and then became a volunteer, and then became their public information officer because I could communicate with the media when events were happening. Was master of our Masonic Lodge. We do a lot of community service there, and this is just another opportunity. I don't know, like I said, that I necessarily would have sought it at that time in my life. I was 36 when I got appointed. Probably had it in my mind I'd do something a little later in life. But as my wife said, look, there's an opportunity here. They're asking you to do it. Take them up on the opportunity. I think you would excel at it. So had the best support I could have, and my wife encouraged me to go do it.
Jumping to this election, you mentioned earlier that you have, air quote here, free pass. You don't have an opponent for the primary or the general election. But there's a lot of statewide races here that you are interested in and are involved in. Tell me what's going on. What are you keeping your eye on?
Well, multiples. We've got a race for Attorney General, which I think is going to be very interesting. Dan Bishop's running, former congressman, or current congressman, but will be the former congressman. I served with him in the state house. He was in the state senate. I used to put up signs for him when he was running for local office the first time. So as a college Republican volunteer, that's going to be an interesting one. And I think it's one that people in North Carolina should really pay attention, because you can either go far left with Jeff Jackson, or you can go with someone that I think more fits the state, and that's Dan Bishop. We've got a governor's race that's going to be interesting. Lots of money coming into that. I think today I heard, or just the other day, heard the reports of, Josh Stein has raised like $11 million, and our lieutenant governor has raised, Mark Robinson has raised something like $3.5 million, $4 million, something like that. And then there will be all this money that comes in from outside sources. So that's going to be the race really to watch. And then we've got a congressional race in the primary here. They'll be satisfied one way or the other in March soon. But really shaping up with my seatmate, Gray Mills, serves in the State House, good friend. This guy, Pat Harrigan, who seems like a perennial candidate, keeps trying to find a district to run in. They're running against each other, and look, I'm not knocking Pat, but he's new to the district, and I've lived in this district all my life, the 10th district. Thought about running for it, but my timing with my family, my son, wasn't right. So, that's going to be fun to watch. And look, both those guys are going to raise a lot of money and put a lot of money into that. And then you get into local races and state house races. We've got some that are more interesting than others. Tricia Cotham down in Charlotte, who switched parties, used to be my aisle mate on the House floor. So the way we do it, the Republicans are one aisle, and next to them is the Democrat. And so I was kind of in that buffer zone. And Tricia was my aisle mate for years, and as a Democrat, but we were friends. You don't always have to hate the other party. And we got her to switch parties. She helped us get to the supermajority.
Interesting stuff. I enjoy learning about the roadmap of how people got where they were to where they are now, and especially the blending of the Republicans and Democrats out in Raleigh. I think you could add some more insight to that, and we're going to ask Jason about more insight to that as well. You are listening to the News Drive at 5 conversation series here at WSIC News Talk Radio. I am Patrick Reynolds. More with Jason Saine right after this. Welcome back to the News Drive at 5 for this Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. I'm Patrick Reynolds taking you home. Thank you for spending time at our new Conversations series. And alongside me, we're talking to Jason Saine. Not only is he a representative for North Carolina, but also a host right here on WSIC with All Things Saine. Wednesdays at 11 a.m., I got all that right, correct?
You got it all right. That's my other side hustle to the side hustle, right? Is my show, All Things Saine. David Coble is the one. I got to credit him with the name. I was talking to him. It's like, hey, I talked to Justin. He's like, why don't you do a show? I'm like, okay, that interests me. I've done radio before. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I think it'd be a great way to communicate what's happening in Raleigh. We try it with newsletters and e-newsletters and things of that nature. Like, why not as a podcast? And so, but the biggest thing you got to decide is, what are you going to call it? And Coble's like, well, man, everybody calls you insane. He said, why don't you call it All Things Sane? I was like, okay, fine. And we started that in, I guess, July last year, and get a lot of the lobbyist crowd in Raleigh that listen to it. A lot of the reporters listen to it, and of course constituents, which is really what it's all about. Is, hey, what's happening? You get in whatever your regular line of work is, whatever it is, and you forget that what you do might be interesting to someone else. No 2 days are the same with the legislature for sure, but when you can communicate what's happening, when there's hot issues going on. Talking about that, people want to know, and there's a whole personal side of that. We were talking earlier about, how do you react to the negativity, but the other part of that is the real cool part about serving in office at whatever level is that you really get to interact with people. My preacher told me one time, he says, our jobs are not that different. He said, a lot of times they're calling your office when they're at their worst. They don't call you when everything's going great. They call you when they've got a problem, and if you can help them solve that problem, that's a really rewarding thing to do, and you get to know people.
How does that make you feel when you are able to find that solution? Is that a big uplifter to your heart?
It's kind of the time when in our office when me and the staff high five each other. Yep, got that one knocked down, right? Can't always solve every problem, but we certainly give it our best effort. And it's like I say, I had a call just the other day. A man and woman had just moved here into one of the 55 and up communities. They've got an issue that with their neighbor, which is a company, not their next door neighbor, but just trying to help them navigate what it is that they need to do and how to get them there is a lot of fun to, take the problem, figure out a solution, and see if you can help.
You said earlier that you had radio background before you came here to WSIC. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I had my tech company. We were at that time building desktops and servers. That's when you could do that, when they didn't sell them for 25 cents at Walmart. And we were doing custom machines and helping companies with their networks and so forth. And went to do some advertising on a show or on a radio station in Gaston County. And the owner of the show said, "Hey, come on, be on the morning show. Tell us about your business. We'll do a little interaction back and forth." And I said, "Great, glad to do it." So get there like 7:30 in the morning. We talk for 30 minutes, and as talk show hosts often do, they loop you into their conversation, whatever was happening that day. He didn't know I had a background in political science, and so he asked me a timely question about whatever was happening that day, and he said, "Wow, you know a lot about this. I thought you were the tech guy." I said, "Well, yeah, that's my business, but I love politics too, and have worked in that." And we stayed on, finished the show. So started at 7:30, went all the way to the 9 o'clock break. Right, Glenn Beck I think was on next, and then he said, "Look, man, I'd love having you on the station as an advertiser. I'm going to be going to a conference next week. My co-host, good guy, known Charlotte radio guy." He was helping with the station getting started up. It was WCRH at the time. I had to learn not to say W, so they had to train that, beat that out of me. But he said, "Why don't you co-host for the week? And you can promote your business the whole time." He said, "You get a benefit from it. Plus, with your commercials, you can talk about what you do." Okay, fine. Free advertising. I'll go do it. He comes back after a week of that, and he had gotten enough phone calls and people who had listened and said, "Man, we really enjoy listening to him on the radio." And so did that for, I don't know, 2.5 years, something like that. And then he sold the station, changed the format. But it was a lot of fun. I didn't necessarily like the early mornings, but aside from that, and that gave me kind of a start in radio and kind of trained over someone who had been in radio for 20 years, helped me work through some of my good old Lincoln County upbringing and slang that I didn't need to necessarily say on the radio, but it was a lot of fun, and it helped our business for sure. I mean, it was a great way to promote, and then just things happen in life. Before you know it, you're back on radio.
Yeah, grammar and enunciation, important parts of this, which I admit we all stumble at times.
We stumble, and I mean, again, upbringing. If you put my sister on the radio, God bless her, obviously I love her, wouldn't be the right person to put on radio, right? And people say, "How are you two related? You grew up in the same household because you don't talk anything alike." And I think a lot of it's just because I've been on radio and have learned to communicate in a different way that people want to hear it when what they're used to listening to on radio.
Mm-hmm. When I look at newscasts coming out of Charlotte, there's nobody there with, I would call, a traditional Southern accent.
Right.
Nobody on television like that.
Yeah.
On radio, yes, you have more personalities on the radio that are just more local folks, you, me. But you do have that. I get people call in and say, "Hey, you're not from around here, are you, Patrick?" I'm like, "Correct, I'm not."
Right. You don't have the twang.
I gave that away. And you, I guess, yeah, you know a lot of people and just serving the community. You're on radio and part of it.
Yeah, you get to be a part of it. You get to, they hear you, they know you. We can't go out to dinner without a conversation starting. Someone's going to recognize you, right? But we're never as popular as we believe on our press release, right? I always tell my members, like, if you really think that you're such a well-known politician, walk around your Walmart or your Target for about an hour. If no one stops you and asks you anything, they don't really know you.
Good point.
Hey, you know.
We have a sports betting bill here in North Carolina. Largely, I won't say largely, but you certainly had a hand in it. You tell me your role in this. This was fascinating. You talked to us off the air about sports betting here in the state.
Yeah, so I'm sitting at a restaurant on Lake Norman on a Saturday, as I often do with two friends of mine. We love sports, so we'll watch a game together, be out on the lake on our boat, and go grab lunch. And we're watching games, and I'm watching my two friends on their phone. And I won't say their names, but they're local, like very local, like Iredell County local. And I'm watching them on their phones bet. They were placing bets on the games we were watching and we're about to watch. And I said, "How are you doing that?" I said, "Because I know that's not legal in North Carolina. And I'm a fantasy sports guy. I've enjoyed that. But, just sports betting wasn't available, so I didn't do it." And they walked me through. And I said, "Well, where's this money go? What's this company? What is, again, not trying to judge, help me understand." And I know there's revenue leaving our state. So it got me to thinking. And then the Supreme Court had passed their ruling that said, sports betting is legal. You can do it. We were just one of the states who hadn't jumped into it. So started crafting a bill, had a partner in the Senate, Senator Jim Perry, who also had an interest in it for the same reasons, he said, why are we losing money to Virginia and Tennessee and all these other states? We should be building our roads with those monies. We should be funding our schools with those monies. And that's how it kind of started. It took us 3 years to get there, so 2 sessions, a little unheard of because, normally you get a bill, and I'm the appropriations chairman, so normally my bills get through without a lot of fuss. But it was a controversial bill because there's people who were fine with it, people who didn't care, and people who were just absolutely opposed to it. So we get it to the House floor. Because of the way the Senate had constructed the original bill, we had to run 2 bills. So it passes with 1 vote on the House floor. But the second bill that would have enacted the law failed by 1 vote. So all within a span of like an hour and a half, all that came crashing down. Came back, reworked it, talked to members, really helped to educate them on what would happen if sports betting were passed. This past year, we got it passed about 20-some votes.
Are you already seeing the difference yet of that money coming into the economy, or does that take a while?
So March 11th, we go live. So we will see that right in time for March Madness.
Right in time for March. Did you design that fact too?
No, did not. I was hoping we'd get there by the Super Bowl, but unfortunately we missed that mark.
Okay. You mentioned other states. We're coming up on a break here. You mentioned other states. In my head, I'm thinking we're losing money to New Jersey and Nevada, but It's not just them. It's other states.
And offshore.
Offshore as well. Yeah. More for us to dig into there. Gosh, Jason Saine, enlightening our audience here at WSIC News Talk Radio. This is the News Drive at 5 conversation series. We are chatting with radio host, entrepreneur Jason Saine. Patrick Reynolds, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the News Drive at 5 Conversations series. I am Patrick Reynolds, taking you home on this Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Alongside me in the studio, our special guest today, 97th North Carolina House District Representative and host of All Things Saine right here on WSIC News Talk Radio. Jason Saine is in the house with us. Thanks
Patrick,
for being with us.
Great to be on with you, Patrick. This I get to listen. It's a little different sitting in this chair. You get used to being the host, and now I get to be the interviewee, which is a lot of fun, actually.
Well, All Things Saine, your show airs Wednesdays, 11 a.m. here on WSIC News Talk. You have a very different dynamic and format that what you're sitting in right now with the News Drive at 5. You kind of do that, your show, All Things Saine, wherever you are at the time, correct?
Wherever we may be. Obviously while we're in legislative session back and forth, I came in this morning, just fresh from Raleigh as I came back and hit appointments along the way. You never know where I might be on any given day. And so, and I'm a tech person by trade, so I've got all the stuff in a bag, and I can have a makeshift studio ready. Luckily, with enough technology, and Bill runs the boards for me, so I get everything set up. We've done it from Orlando, we've done it from Denver of the West, not Denver of the East, but and then my office in Lincolnton, just depending on where we're at, but. I enjoy it because I get to interview my colleagues a lot of times, or people who are in politics, or anything that's a hot topic that's people are talking about, kind of the water cooler thing. That what are they talking about at work? What's top of mind? And I try to get those folks who are in proximity to me. They're usually contacting me for some reason, and get them on air and talk about what's happening with them. See what's making them tick, or if it's a hot primary race, talking about that. So it's fun to do.
Technology has really opened up the doors for all of us to do this anywhere.
Well, it is amazing. So my good friend, Charlotte City Councilman Tart Bakari, he and I have a love of esports and love gaming for a bunch of old dudes who really still love playing with Call of Duty and that type of thing. But because of that, I've had him on the show a couple of times. He's working with young people in Charlotte, but really now statewide, working with UNC Greensboro and some money that we put to UNC Greensboro, form a high school league on esports. And you just never know where things are going to lead to. And kind of started because of our talks back and forth, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Your role as the 97th North Carolina House District Representative encompasses Lincoln County. Do you have any political ambitions beyond that, or are you happy right where you are?
So I get that. I get asked that a lot, and I guess for good reason, because a lot of people say, "Well, I'm going to start here, and I really want to end up there." my take's a little different. I was appointed. I wasn't seeking political office when I went in. Would it be fun to do something else? I'm sure it would be. I really enjoy what I get to do at the State House. I'm the appropriations chairman, so I get to spend $32 billion on your behalf each year, making sure that we get the policies right, that we put the money in the right places where taxpayers get benefit from their dollars, from their hard work. That's fun. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. I get we talked earlier about helping constituents through problems. I tell people I represent the best district in the state, and I say that for this reason. I've got one city council, one county commission, one school board, know them all, been friends with them all for a long, long time. We work on issues together. So I'm in a good space. When Patrick McHenry announced that he was not going to seek re-election, he and I had that conversation. We had been friends in college. Matter of fact, we'd been working on separate campaigns that were opposed to each other when we first met. And through the years had really formed a great relationship, friendship, and even we're in business together at one point in time. I thought maybe that might be what I want to do, but his timing and my timing just really didn't work out. I've got a 15-year-old home. My wife and I love doing everything we can with that young man. Jackson, he's been on my show. We both love sports. He loves basketball. He loves football. We've traveled with the UNC Charlotte football team. I just don't want to forego that next two and a half years with him to run for Congress. And quite frankly, they don't do much in Congress. We need to send good people. We can't just give up. But at the same time, for me personally, what was happening in my personal life, it just didn't make sense. And we looked at it. My wife was fine. She would support me in doing it. My son thought it was a cool thing that I might go to Congress. But at the end of it, it didn't make sense. And my seatmate, Gray Mills, he and I had this conversation over the years, just kind of kidding, really. But he said, look, man, I think you would probably make a great congressman. But if you don't want to do it, I think I might want to do it. So when it actually came about, Gray and I were riding in the car together to Raleigh. We were on an ethics committee together. And Patrick made his announcement. We both looked at each other in the car like, you do it. No, you do it. But ultimately, Gray wanted to do it, and he's at a different place in his life. His youngest child just will be starting college in the fall. Works out great for him. Right. So, and I'm glad to support him. But I never say never. But to say I've got my eyes on the next office, no, I don't.
You like serving right where you are. It works perfect for your lifestyle and where you are.
It works for us and it works for our family. I think I can be effective at what I'm doing. And, I think that would be really if we were in the minority, if I didn't have a seat at the leadership table, it might be different. But for now, I know I can be effective and do a lot of great things for my district in this region, which matters a lot to me. And, got to remember that I came to the legislature when I was unemployed. I was looking for work. And for me, that is always at the forefront of what I do. It's like, how can we make our economy, how can we make our state more attractive so that everyone has an opportunity to go to work, to earn more, and to have a better life? That's really what drives me. And I get to do that sitting where I sit.
Well, my daughter is 18, just began her freshman year last fall. And I know those years of what you're talking about leading up to when they leave for college, you want to soak up every minute with them.
Absolutely.
As a dad. I did the same thing. I probably to an annoying point of my daughter as well.
Well, you only get one shot. And the fact that we've been able to make this work, I mean, the scheduling and, I'm blessed. And I know that a lot of people don't get that opportunity. And we have it, and we're going to take it. It's the most important thing to us. And, I'm not going to apologize for it. I had many people say, well, you should be the congressman. Like, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But it's just not right for me right now.
Everybody I talk to, I ask them about this question, traffic, which comes with the growth of this community, Lake Norman, Charlotte. It's a wonderful place, and we can't all be the last person to move here and lock the door behind us. We'd like that, but we can't. So the growth and management of that is on, I think, every politician's plate, people asking about them as well. Share with me your fantastic idea to navigate through around Lake Norman and Highway 150.
Well, I've got a couple, but because I do a lot of business in Mooresville. So I come from Lincolnton. I had to sit on 150 like everyone else. When someone calls me and complains about the traffic, I'm like, look, I know as well as you do, maybe sometimes more so, because I've been living it for decades now.
Right.
And, I I said it jokingly one time. I said, look, why don't we just channel under the lake? And this is probably 10 years ago. I said, we just channel under. Like, we don't have to build bridges. We don't have to infringe on too much property. We'll just channel under. And I said this to Vicki Sawyer, and she's one of our transportation chairs in the Senate. And I'm kind of half joking over the years. Now that Elon Musk is doing it and he's channeling under Las Vegas, and now they've got some interest in doing some stuff here in North Carolina. Vicki came to me the other day and she said, Saine, you're not going to believe it. They want to talk about channeling. I don't know if we'll get it under the lake, but traffic is a bear. And I had a city councilman one time call me, one of the communities here in Lake Norman, and he's complaining about the traffic. He said, why can't we get NCDOT? Why can't we build the roads? We're the successful state, and all this is happening. I said, how long have you lived here? And he said, well, about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And my wife's from somewhere else too, so it's not a bias on, glad people love what we love. I said, well, hey man, I don't remember you calling me in about 1995 and let me know you're on the way. And he says, what? I said, well, see, roads take literally decades to plan. Mm-hmm. I said, and we've just experienced this explosive growth and so many people wanting to be a part of what we have. And, we're really bad about keeping secrets. We tell all of our friends how great it is to live here, and then they tell other people, and they start showing up. And look, we are blessed, but at the same time, we are blessed with traffic too. And while that might not be the blessing we want, it's a better problem to have than an area that's dying. But it does take time. It takes money. We had to reform how DOT was putting roads, how they decided. It was very political before. They just put roads all over the state, and if you were a powerful politician, you got roads in your area. We've reversed that, but it still takes a lot of time to really onboard and to get those plans in place. And we're competing. We're always competing with other areas of the state who are also growing.
Did the representatives in Raleigh need a walk-up song when they come into
absolutely
cabinet?
So Tricia Cotham and I used to talk about this, right? We decided that Crazy Train would be overused, given some of our colleagues. But we played this game on the House floor. It's like, pick the walk-up song for this representative. What would theirs be? If it was like baseball, Chipper Jones always used Crazy Train, but we decided that Crazy Train would have to be off the table. So then we had to choose from another spot of music. But we had something, I think, for about every member of the House that got up. Some people never talk on the House floor, but those who did, especially the regulars, we had their walk-up songs ready.
And yours would be?
Sharp Dressed Man. If you know anything about my history, once upon a time I used campaign funds legally to buy some suits, and a blogger went sideways on it, which was kind of funny. But I'm my biggest donor, so it was okay. I checked with me. But Sharp Dressed Man would have to be it. Plus, it's a great song.
We just got about a minute left in our time here today. Quickly, besides traffic and growth, what other issues are important to the folks at Lincoln County that they express to you?
In Lincoln County, when I say I represent the best district ever, we don't want a lot from Raleigh. They're not looking for government handouts. They're not looking for, over involvement by Raleigh. What they really want is to, one, have low taxes, to have good schools, and a good healthcare system. That is pretty simple. It seems like simple ask, but that's really what they want. Those are the things that are most important to me because it's most important to my constituents.
Good talk. Jason Saine, thank you so much.
Thank you. I
appreciate you being here.
Yes.
All Things Saine, hosted by Jason Saine, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here on WSIC News Talk. This has been the News Drive at 5 conversation series with Jason Saine as our guest in studio. I'm Patrick Reynolds. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. for another News Drive at 5.